Welcome to the Slow and Steady Sisterhood, where the race set before you is best run at conversational pace. I'm Nikki. I'm doing another solo episode today. I have a really amazing guest today, Cheri Whitt. She is one of the admins on the Just Jeffing It Facebook group. She is a Galloway trainer. She is a close personal friend with Jeff Galloway, and she's got a ton of knowledge about the run, walk, run method and the Galloway method. I think one thing that I'll hear when I talk to people is that the assumption is that run walk is for slow people, and there are people who are fast, and I said no, people Boston qualify doing run walk. So you want to speak to that just a little bit and your experiences?
Yeah, so my Boston qualifying time is 4:20, and I'm on track to qualify for Boston this year, and I'm 60, so I plan on running a 4:15 now. Because I run so many marathons, it's really hard because I run like 20 a year, 15, 20 a year. So it's really hard for me to do speed work. Because I, as a coach, have a coach. And my coach is constantly banging his head against the desk going, you can't run so many marathons. So this year, I really spaced it out. So after Cape Town this weekend, I don't have anything until, I think, October. So I have set aside that time to do speed work, which I got to tell you, I hate. I hate, if I could do anything else, if I could bite my fingernail off versus speed work, because it's hard and it's not fun. You're going to go out and do 16 1-mile repeats at 30 seconds faster than race pace. It's not fun. So
and it actually takes so much longer than a 16-mile run because you have the recovery walks in there.
Yeah. And I remember telling Jeff, because my coach, he's like 1-mile repeats. He loves them. And I said to Jeff, I don't know, I might have to switch because I can't stand these 1-mile repeats. And Jeff said, well, I don't do 1-mile repeats at all. And I was like, ooh. And he goes, I do 2-mile repeats. And I was like, no. That's worse. Yeah, I was like, no, that's not what I'm asking to not do. Can I get faster without doing any of the work? That would be great. Thank you so much. And I think we all think we can. And you can't. You got to put in the work. Running is an interesting thing. But we have a coach, a new Customized Plus coach, Brendan Twiggs, who's Chris Twiggs' son. And he ran a sub 3-hour marathon at Disney World of all places. And you know how crowded that is. And he's our sub 3-hour guy. And we have another Mark Burgett. He does run walk, and he's winning all these ultras and, running like 2:30, whatever marathons. I mean, he's amazing. So it can be done. It absolutely can be done. And wherever you put that walk break in, even if you're running 5-minute miles, at some point by putting a small walk break in somewhere, it's going to reset your running muscles. So it doesn't mean you're doing 30-30. You might be running 9 minutes and walking 30 seconds, but you're still using run walk. It's just how long, and people get confused. People think if I want to run a 5-minute per mile marathon, I just have to run for 9 minutes and walk for 30 seconds. No, if you aren't trained for that, you can't do it. The magic mile is an interesting tool because it'll tell you exactly where you're at. And if you try and elongate your run portion much past what is suggested, you're not going to be that much faster. Your body will slow down naturally to where your pace is. And people don't recognize that. So they run longer than they should, and then they get hurt. And that's not how you get faster, right? You do the drills, you do the speed work, and that's how you get faster. So that's a whole rabbit hole I could go down with people on using the paces and adjusting them, being the captain of your own ship and adjusting those paces and utilizing the course. The course is really important. Don't kill yourself on the uphills. And if you have good knees, because some people can't run downhill, but they can run uphill, and some people can't run uphill, but they can run downhill. So utilize the course if you're trying to get a better time. So, who is texting me? Oh, my brother. So my brother, he's visiting. My nephew is in San Diego. He's in the Navy, and my brother's down there visiting, and he's texting me for whatever reason. I just saw him yesterday when I was down there. That was one of the reasons I went down. I went to visit him, and I ran a race. So, yeah.
Just kind of what we do in the running world. I'm going to go somewhere. Is there a race there?
I know. My husband's like, I want to go to Ireland. Let me find a race. He's like, we we can travel without running a race. And I go, but we don't run the race. I do. And why would I travel without, if I'm going to a country, I want to run there.
Yeah. You touched on the Magic Mile. So for our listeners, do you want to explain what the Magic Mile is?
Yeah. And I actually talked to a gal earlier in the week and I said, the Magic Mile is so simple. People make it really hard. It is not. It is 1 mile. It is a time trial for 1 mile. And what that means is you want to run it as fast as you can. You can use some form of walk break, or you can run it straight through. Because what that's going to do is by pushing your body to its fullest, you're going to set your standard for what your times are going to be. And so, usually if you're running on a track, I tell people if they're like a 15:30 or 30:30 runner, don't run your Magic Mile using 30:30. You're not going to be fast.
Right.
And so if you run it, if you're on a track, like maybe every quarter mile, every once around the track, take a 5 or 10 second walk and then go again and do that. And then that time you plug into the Magic Mile calculator, which if you just search Jeff Galloway Magic Mile calculator, it goes right there. And so you put in your time into the Magic Mile calculator, and it tells you exactly what your 5K pace, your 10K pace, your half, and your full pace are, and then what you can project to run per mile, and then what ratios you should use for each pace. Right. So if your 5K pace is a 10-minute mile, you're not going to run 15:30 to achieve a 10-minute mile. You're going to probably run 60:30. 40-20, something like that. And then if your half marathon pace is, let's say you're going to run a 13-minute mile at your half marathon pace, then that would be a 30-30, 20-20. You could even do a 30-20. Sometimes I tell people, instead of adding more time on the run section, just remove some on the walk section. And it's an interesting thing because once you find the right ratio, you'll dial it in. And I've found for me over the years, when I'm racing, I don't need more than 15 seconds as a walk break. So my run ratio is geared around my walk. So if I'm 15 seconds and I'm going to run 4-1, then I'm going to run 60 seconds and walk 15. So instead of doing like 2 and 30, it's the same thing. It's just what works best for you. So, it's an amazing tool, but what happens is if people say, I can't make my long run be as slow as the Magic Mile predicts, well, then maybe you didn't do the Magic Mile correctly. Maybe you didn't run it as fast as you could. And
I don't have any problem making it as slow as it needs to be.
Right, but the Magic Mile is, and sometimes people aren't good test takers, right? So people freak out at that. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to run a mile as hard as I can. I want to throw up, my leg hurts. And sometimes we can take your 5K if you have run a really good 5K, or if you're running 3 miles or 5 miles and you happen to have a great mile within there, we can kind of, figure it out from there. But the quickest way to do it is the Magic Mile, and you just go as fast as you can. You should be huffing and puffing. That's the one time where huffing and puffing is allowed. If you do it at a conversational pace, you're not going to get it's a prediction. So you need to do it so you can get the prediction. So
yeah, I'm actually scheduled for a Magic Mile tomorrow.
Yeah. So now you maybe have some more information to go out there. Do you do it on a track? Yeah.
I actually enjoy the Magic Mile. It depends on whether or not I've done them on a track, but I've also done them on the trail where I have a flatter portion. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on so when I was training for every women's marathon last year, and you have the 3 mile warm up and then the Magic Mile and then the 3 mile cool down. I mean, I call it a warm up and a cool down, but I would always do those out on the trail because I just didn't want to run around a track 75,000 times.
So I can tell you from my own experience on the Magic Mile, try not to do a 3 mile warm up, because your Magic Mile, you want to kind of run that in the beginning when you're not tired. Mm-hmm. So maybe try and 2 mile warm up, then the Magic Mile, and then finish your run.
That might have been what it was. I was using the app, the Galloway app, so I was just following whatever that was. So it might have been 2 on the front.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just remember it was really hot most of the time in the summer because I was training in the summer.
Yeah. Well, I know when I have done the Magic Mile when I run with my group, I think, how can I incorporate what I have to train? And I did that once. I did 3 miles with my group. We go out and back. So I ran out 3 miles with them and I was like, okay, I got to do my Magic Mile. And that was hard. I slowed down about 30 seconds because I was tired at that point. My legs weren't fresh anymore. And we want to run the Magic Mile on as fresh as legs as we can to get the optimum speed. I suggest too for people who do it, try and use the same course. So if you don't have a track, and let's say you're running in your neighborhood, you're running on a trail, try and start in the same location, stop in the same location. So every time you do it, you can compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
Right? So you know that you're running the same course every time. So if you improve, you know it's not a fluke because it's the same course. So
yeah. When I do them on the trail, it's always we have this loop I like to go to, especially if I'm training in the hot summer and I have to get a ton of miles in. It's a 1.8 mile loop around this lake, and I set up my car as like an aid station. And if I got to get those really long miles in, and I don't think I can carry enough fluids or something like that, and so I would always, if it was on the trail, it was always in the same spot, and if it was on the track, it's always at the same track.
Yeah.
But most of my Magic Miles have not been on a track. They've all been at the fishery lake.
Yeah.
I've done one on a track, and it was probably my slowest one.
Well, because I'm not going to lie, tracks are boring, and
Yes.
you're going around in a circle, and you're going around in a circle, and you think, oh my gosh, I got to get way over there before I can take a break. And on a point to point, you're not thinking that way. You're looking around, it's like, oh, the trees are pretty. Look at that bird. So you're not thinking about those things. You're not thinking, this is super boring. Is that guy going to cut me off and walk right across the track again? He better not, so you're thinking all these weird things. Yeah, 100%.
And there's
But
no
some
shade
people like
at the
it.
track, and
No.
it's just boring.
It's boring. 100%. Some people like it. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan. Yeah. So.
All right, a question for you, for those people who we're trying to encourage to become runners because it's amazing.
Yeah.
The Galloway Method has made it possible for me to be a runner. I could never be a continuous runner. But what do you tell to beginning runners? How do someone who's never run before, how do you even get them started with the Galloway Method?
So usually what we do is we'll take someone. I've done beginning to 5K runners. Couch to 5K is trademarks. We don't use that. We just say beginner to 5K. And we start with time. So, and even in the app, you'll notice if you're new and you're a beginner, you can set whether you're a beginner or intermediate, whatever, and then you can set like 5K. So we do it based on time. We say, okay, and I talk to them the whole time. So what I'll do is I'll take, because I do this with my church too. So about 3 or 4 times a year, I do a little running coaching session with them. And so we kind of we'll walk and pray around the church, and and I said, just follow me. I'm going to say the word shuffle, and I want you to just run a little bit until I say, okay. So they're walking around the church and they're praying over the building, and I'm talking to them, and I'm like, okay, we're going to shuffle. And I have walked them through all that. And I say, okay, walk again. And then I say to them, all right, you guys did a mile. We're done. And they don't even realize a mile has happened, and they've never gone that far before. So usually it's 15 minutes. The first time is about 15 minutes. You get them out there. You get them used to it, but you don't want them to be miserable. You want them to come back again. So you try and make it as fun as possible. I think for me, I try and make all the runs as fun as possible because I want them to come back. I'm not out there trying to make it so hard and complicated and technical and use big fancy words. I'm not a doctor of running. I'm just a runner. And so I try and communicate at the level they're at so that they understand. I remember having to tell my runners when we were walking, look, if you're walking for a long run, you're walking. It's a casual walk. You're strolling along. It's great. But your walking pace is whatever your slowest pace is really going to be your fastest run. So if you're a slow walker, it's going to be real hard to get that improvement on your overall time, because if you're doing 30-30, half of your race is walking. So you have to walk with intention in a race, but not in long runs. And so I would tell my runner, I'd tell the girls, I go, you know how when you walk really fast, because you have to go to the bathroom really bad, we call it the pee-pee walk. And seriously though, if you have to go to the bathroom, you're like clenching things and you're walking really fast. So that kind of intention and shortening the stride like that is how you get faster. So I will tell runners, we do cadence drills. And I say, do them on your walking too. Do cadence drills with your walking. Learn how to be more proficient in your walking. But I try and talk to them on a level, because you can see when someone's not getting it, right? Because they got this look on their face like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a confusion.
Yes.
And so
I work with kids. I get that look all the time.
Yeah. So you're trying to make it so they understand. And then they're like, oh. I used to teach Sunday school. And it was always interesting because you'd look around the room, and if you're getting these vacant stares, you're like, okay, I talked way over their head. I need to bring it down to their level. So, and I don't ever think that runners are not intelligent. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you're new at something, it's hard. If you decide you're going to start bodybuilding, don't expect me to know what pull, jerk, this, that. I don't know any of it. So talk to me so I can understand it. And running is the same way. Talk to someone so they can understand it and the reasonings behind it. And so I never mind talking to people on a run. I never mind answering questions, because I think if we can't encourage people, we may lose them. And that would be the worst possible scenario, is if people got discouraged and didn't run because of something that I said or someone else said. So I always try and be encouraging.
I'll just go back to it. The best part about running are the runners. And the fact that you could just be so encouraged. And every race I ever run, I make friends. I've made a friend.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. Because I'm slow, I'm in a group of people who are just excited to be there, running their pace, and we're able to have conversation at our pace. We worked the water station for the Chicago Marathon.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked that with Black Girls Run last year at mile 17. And those fast sub 4-hour marathoners do not talk to you when they come through. They grab their water and they run through, and some of them are grouchy and very
They're
intense.
not having fun.
And the slower they got, the more smiles were on their faces. And I'm not downplaying fast runners. They're just in a different mindset when they're running.
Well, but
it's
now
a completely different mindset.
It is, but let me break it back for you a little bit. So that fast runner is trying to do something in that race, right? So their main focus is that finish time. It would be like for you, we talked about earlier, let's say you're going to run Boston, and you know it's a 6-hour hard cutoff. So you're going to focus on finishing that in 6 hours. It's not going to be a fun time for you. So you might not be smiling as much because you know that, so you know that you got a goal. And in fact, if you don't get it within that goal, you're not going to get an official time.
I'm not going to get a star. I need a star.
And you'll get the Boston medal. Boston will always give you a medal, but they will not give you a star. And so for people who are on this journey, it's tough. I mean, I've run all the world majors, and Cape Town will be number 8. And it was Chicago and Berlin and Tokyo that I paced people to finish. So I didn't run any of those for time. I don't think you go to a world major and run it for time. I think you go and run it, and then you just bring people to the finish line. So I did that. And each race is different. So if you're going to pace people, you better know the race, right? So you better know, like Tokyo, you have to run faster in the first half than in the last half, because they're cut off. They got to clear up that course. So they make it like a 12:30 average pace in the first 13 miles. And then you can slow it down. But if you don't run at whatever the pace is set, then you'll get swept. Even if you're under the per mile pace is an average, but that doesn't mean if you ran a 13:30 pace from the beginning, you would probably get swept. So you have to know the course, because these people are relying on you. And I will also say that if you ever feel like you're really struggling in a race, go find someone to help. Because if you're struggling and you go and help someone else who's struggling, you'll forget you're struggling because you're so focused on helping them. So which is another cool thing about running, is when we struggle and then we help someone else out, then we forget about our struggles. And then they might forget that they're struggling because now they have someone who's there with them step by step. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a goal. I'm going to run 50 states, not marathons. I don't have the time in my life for that. And it ranks them any length in all 50 states, and I want the original 6 stars. So for me, I have to like the speed work. I have to make myself like the speed work. Chicago has a 6:30 time cutoff, but so does Dallas, and so I'm going to register. I'm going to run Dallas in December, and that'll kind of give me a similar type of a feel for time, and it's kind of a flattish course in Dallas as well. So
I run Dallas. You have you run it before? I have run it.
I haven't.
I didn't find it.
Somebody told me it's flat.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, Dallas, you go down into this neighborhood and you come back out and there's these weird bridges that they're, when you run over them, the bridges like rebound. So you almost can't run across the bridge with all the other runners. The bridge is constantly like, it's meeting you before your foot hits it. So, run it certainly, but just don't go in there with thinking that it's flat.
Right.
It's flat-ish. It's flat-ish.
I'm always skeptical because every women's marathon last year said it was a flat and downhill, and it was not. We ran up a literal mountain.
I'll tell you, the courses that are flat, I know, like Grandma's is not flat. You're in Duluth. There's hills. It's not flat. Yeah. The Fargo Marathon is flat. I mean, there's a few little Noli hills, but Fargo per se is flat. If you want to run flat marathons, go to states that are flat. I know Texas is predominantly flat, but in certain areas they have hills. So I think like probably Route 66 might be a flat race. We have a race director there, and I think that one's pretty racer friendly. We have a couple of marathons out here in Ventura that run along the beach. So we know those are flat because we're at sea level. So, so you just have to look at the
most interested in finishing in the right amount of time so that I don't get swept at Chicago. So if there are some hills, there's some hills, but if I can finish in that time, then I feel like I know I can do it on a flatter course.
Well, I tell you, I had some runners who really struggled with trying to finish in a using 30-30, finishing sub 6. And what we did was we changed the ratios to 20-second run, 30-second walk, and they were faster. So we finished in 5:48 with 20-second run, 30-second walk, because what we found was 30 seconds was too long for them to run. So they would get tired in that last 10 seconds, and then they couldn't recover in the 30-second walk, and they'd start their run again still tired. So we shortened the run segment so that they could get a full recovery in the walk segment and walk faster, and they were actually faster overall. So sometimes shortening a run segment, or if you think that the run is great, but you need to still make up some time, shorten the walk segment a little bit, play around with it, because it's really overall.
Yeah, I find that at beyond half marathon, I'm faster at 15:30 than I am at 30:30.
Yeah.
And I can really settle in between 15 and 20 seconds somewhere. Probably, it sounds weird, but probably for me about 16 or 17 seconds.
No, but that's why we love the Gym Boss, right? Because we can set it for 17 seconds. Yeah. So did you know that
Gym Boss? So I've been playing with it.
Yeah, Jeff qualified for Boston. I think he was, I want to say 70. He qualified for Boston using a variation of 22-second run, 11-second walk. But I know. But if you ever watched him run, you couldn't tell when he was running and when he was walking. He was so proficient in both because he invented the method, right? But he was just like, dude, I can't even tell. I can't even see your feet leaving the ground. You're like, and then he'd go walk, and you're like, what? Because he was just so good at it. And I remember I videotaped him. I still have videotape on my phone of him like showing people how to do the run, walk, and the transition. And I said, Jeff, we can't use this because nobody can see your transition. You're so good at it that we really can't tell when you're running and when you're walking. And we were cracking up because I was like, you need to be more intentional with it because, but he was so good at it. He just couldn't. So I'm like, let's use someone else. So, but yeah, I mean, when you're having to tell the man himself, we can't use this video because we can't tell the transition because you're so good at it that we can't see when you're doing it. And he's like, I respect it.
How does that feel, having to tell Jeff Galloway that he needs to do his own method differently?
Yeah, right. You need to do it as if people are going to learn from what, he was so good at, like we'd go out there and I would go to a lot of his master classes and stuff, especially the ones out here in California. And I was always the person videotaping or whatever. And I'm like, what? Videotaping him. And he's like, okay, we're going to walk for a little bit. He goes, all right, now we're going to just do a little shuffle. And he'd start shuffling. And he goes, okay, now we're going to go into a little run. He's like, pick up the speed, pick up the speed. And I'm recording all of this. And I'm like, I do not see a difference, Jeff, and, but, people, if you weren't watching his feet and just listening to him, everybody did what he said. But when you're watching his feet, he was so smooth with the whole thing. You could never really tell.
I really like the Chris Twiggs video. He had some videos that I saw on the Facebook page that I watched.
I recorded those. We were at a Jeff Galloway half marathon. And I'm like, Chris, you be the guy. And so I liked the way he explained it. I liked everything he did. And we recorded it. Yeah. And it was really, because I thought he's talking to people who may not understand what we're doing, and he's trying to use it in the context of the course itself. So I thought those videos were fabulous.
Yeah, they were really, really good. Super helpful to people who, like me, were just getting started.
Yeah. And we're trying to be helpful. So when we post, like I always tell people gently sometimes, like, hey, did you check out the featured section? Because it's in when you join, it says, please check out the featured section and read up on this and then ask your questions. But people don't check it out because they're so excited to be there. So we gently say, hey, check out the featured section. But I love that there's, even in the 20,000 plus members of that, there's always people who will be like, here's the link, just go here, I mean, and it's great because everybody's so supportive of people. And I'm like, check out the featured section. And someone's like, here's the link. And I thought I could have done that.
It is absolutely the best running group especially for information and feedback and things like that. I'll put my stuff on there and I have a question, and now I'll make sure I put in there, please don't respond if you are not familiar with Galloway training plans. Because lots of people still use their own. And so they'll say, you don't need to go beyond 20 miles, or you don't need to have a question about, I was struggling on a run and I didn't know if I should do my speed work or try to get another 20 plus miles in. And I had asked this question, all these people are like, you're good, trust your training, you're good. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait for Cheri to respond.
Well, now you have my phone number, so you can just ask me, right?
Yeah.
But I do see people in there who say stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't want to tell them. I mean, obviously they're not correct because we know Jeff trained at the distance always. I also recognize that if you run 20 miles, you could probably finish a marathon, but that last 10K is going to be absolute misery, right? Because you're going to hit your wall at your longest training run. It's a fact. It's a proven fact. We've proven it over and over again. Most people who've run 17 miles, they hit that wall at mile 17. If you run 20 miles, you hit that wall at mile 20. So if I see those comments, I gently try to say, well, we don't like anything new on race day, so we run to the distance, But I do know there's a couple people who like to comment a lot in there, and they really they haven't fully embraced the entire aspect of the method, but based on some of their comments. And I hope that through the information process, they too learn. Because what are you going to do? Message them and go, hey, stop responding with the 20-mile thing. We don't do that. Right. So...
Right, and they're just trying to be helpful. I mean, at the core of it, they're trying to be helpful. This is what's worked for me. This is what I've researched. But if you're not using a Galloway training plan, for me, I am using the Galloway training plans. I've used the Galloway
Mhm.
to finish, and I've used the Galloway time goal plan.
Mhm.
I'm using the time goal plan right now for my half marathon in June. And that's why I'll just put on there, please. I use Galloway plans only.
Mhm.
So comment if you have experience with that.
Well, like I said, you can reach out to me now, and I'll
Yep.
I'll
All
comment
right.
directly. And
I will. You just
and
open the
honestly,
floodgates.
yeah, no, I'm telling you because look, you run with a group of people, and you can then impart that information forward.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like what was it? I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Prel. Was it the Prel commercial where it was Heather Locklear and she would tell people, "You tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell,"
Yes.
and so on and so on.
Yes.
So I think that with the Galloway method, the more we can share with other people, the more they can share. You know,
Yeah.
we're not sharing anything that is for purchase only, right? People always like, well, what you're getting, why would they sign up with you if you're giving them all the information? I'm not giving them all the information. I'm giving them what they're asking for. They're not asking for a training plan, right?
Right.
They're asking, how do I do a magic mile, or how do I do this? And Jeff was so good about giving out the information. There's so much free stuff online through the Run Disney, because he was their coach. So Disney paid him, and so the plans were there. But people who really have a specific goal in mind, we have coaches for that, right? We have,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and so we have Chris Twiggs, who's our chief training officer. He's amazing. If you're an ultra runner, he's your guy. He's your guy for anything. And then we have his son, who's, if you want to be faster, if you want to run a sub 3 hour marathon, he's your guy. We have myself, we have Amy Magdalene, and then Betsy Magato. And they're amazing coaches. So Amy does Moms on the Run, I believe. So they're already full-time coaches. And then they decided to come on to Galloway, which we're super pleased about. And they were both, I don't know if you remember the app Charge Running back, it's probably during COVID. It was an app that came out. And they decided to do some run walk applications within there. And it was the concept was to be able to run with a group of people all over with this app. So you all be running 26 miles all over the country, and you'd be running at the same time, and you'd put your headphones in and you'd listen to people cheering you on. It was a great concept. It was a little bit before its time. So it ended up not making it, but 2 of these all-star coaches are now on board with us. So we're excited that they're there. Yeah. And they're pacers for Galloway. So they're very familiar. They've been trained and certified. And so bringing them on board was huge for us. So we've got 4 new coaches, and we have Chris, and Chris oversees all of us. So anytime somebody wants a specific training for a specific goal, they can go to any one of these coaches. And the cool thing about it is, if one of us can't do what you need us to do, we will pass you off to someone who's better suited. Yeah. So we're not in it for, I'm in it for, I need to get 100 clients under my belt so I can make X amount of money. For the most part, we're all in it to make sure the runner succeeds, so that's a cool thing about it too. So when you're reaching out to me asking for information, I'm going to help you with that. You're not asking me to be your one-on-one coach for free. You need little information. You got most of it down, right? So it would be a disservice if I said, well, if you want to coach with me, it'll cost you X amount per month. That's, that would be not nice. So I like helping people out because I want to see you succeed. Because if you succeed in this goal, there might be somewhere down the line where you say, you know what, I think I do want you as my coach because I want to hit this goal. But if I shut the door on that now, there'll never be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I get closer to Boston, I'm going to have to hire you as my...
Well, you've seen what happens if I'm your coach, right? I'll carry you across the finish line, apparently.
You will carry me to the finish line. You and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Holy Spirit's in us, boy. We're gonna call on that one, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. It's been amazing. I just thank you so much. There's so much knowledge that you have to give out, and just your heart for other people is really what I feel like is Christ-like about you.
Thank you.
So I will leave everyone with this. If you have any questions about the Galloway method, you could go to the Just Jeffing It Facebook group and get a lot of information there. You can reach out to us at the Slow and Steady Sisterhood at gmail.com. If we have specific questions, you heard Cheri say that I have her phone number now. So.
Yeah. So she can ask me, and then she'll get
right.
back to you. So
Yeah.
because we want to keep everybody running to their 100. And
That's
is what
right.
Jeff wanted. So we're here to embody that. So anything we can do to help. And hey, if you want me to come back for anything particular, you just let me know, because now you know how to get a hold of me.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And you can reach out to us on social media at the Slow and Steady Sisterhood Facebook page. Remember, the race is best run at conversational pace for us.
That's right. For everybody. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.